On the morning of October 7th, 2023, Israel woke up to one of the deadliest attacks in its history. In a surprise assault launched from Gaza, Hamas-led militants crossed into southern Israel by land, sea, and air, while rockets were fired into Israeli towns and cities. What began in the early hours quickly became a day of mass killing, fear, and chaos. The attack wasn't limited to one location. Militants entered border communities, roads, military positions, and a music festival near Reim. Families were attacked in their homes. Drivers were ambushed on roads. Festival goers fled across open ground as gunfire and panic spread. By the end of the attack, about 1,200 people had been killed, most of them civilians, and more than 250 people had been taken hostage into Gaza. For many Israelis, the names of places like Be'eri, Kfar Aza, Sderot, and the Nova Music Festival became symbols of trauma almost overnight. Images from those communities showed burned homes, abandoned cars, damaged streets, and the sudden absence left behind when ordinary life is shattered. Survivors described hiding for hours, waiting for help, and trying to understand what was happening around them. At the Nova Festival site near Reim, what had been a celebration turned into one of the most haunting scenes of the day. Thousands of young people had gathered there when the attack began. Many tried to escape as rockets fell and militants approached. The images and testimony from that site became one of the most widely recognized evidence of the scale of violence. Human Rights Watch later concluded that Hamas-led armed groups committed numerous war crimes and crimes against humanity against civilians during the October 7th assault. That legal language reflects the deliberate targeting and abuse of civilians that day. For a short documentary, that distinction matters. This was not only a battle, it was an attack in which civilians were killed, kidnapped, and terrorized on a mass scale. The events of October 7th also marked the beginning of a much wider war. Within hours, Israel began striking Gaza, and the conflict rapidly expanded into a devastating regional crisis whose consequences are still being felt. But to understand why October 7th remains such a defining date, it is important to pause on the day itself, the shock, the human loss, and the rupture it created for families, communities, and an entire region. This film does not attempt to explain every dimension of the war that followed. Instead, it focuses on the events of that day and on the civilians whose lives were ended or changed forever.